I'm Nikki Young.
And I'm Ann-Margaret Gonzalez.
And this is Aquifer In-Sight, where we bring the aquifer to you. We highlight the people, the places, and the stories across our 8-county jurisdiction. And today, we're taking it all the way back to 1996.
Yes, on June 28, 1996 is when the EAA first came to be. So 30 years, 1 aquifer, and 3 pillars to our mission: manage, enhance, and protect. Hear from EAA General Manager Roland Ruiz as he shares where we've been these past 30 years, his 20 years at the agency, and what he sees on the horizon for the EAA.
You know, the story of the Edwards Aquifer Authority is really a story of people. And so much as it's a story about protecting a natural resource, the resource is protected because of its impact on people. We come from a history where for many decades there was a lot of question and uncertainty about what do we do to make sure that this resource remains viable for the greater region. Back in 1996, after the solution was identified in the Edwards Aquifer Authority Act, this agency started its work in earnest. And so here we are a generation later, and we can look back with a great deal of pride and with a great story to tell about success. Success in not only regulating a natural resource and protecting it for the greater good of the greater region, but also in the after effects of that, the consequences of that, a greater economic diversity for the region, sustainability for the region, and really a greater predictability about how we can rely on this resource moving into the future. And so we've looked at different ways that we can do that. We started with a regulatory permitting system that gave us great groundwork for making sure that we had everything in place to do our mission of manage, enhance, and protect for this Edwards Aquifer. Once we got that done, we started to look at the future and what more can we do within that mission. And that's where we started looking at partnership and collaboration and working with folks across the region. We're able to solidify our footwork in that world with a habitat conservation plan that came into existence in 2012. And we've been executing that plan. And again, it's another success story where we're meeting the needs of the region by protecting the species that we are obligated to protect under federal law. Here of late, we've been focused mainly on looking to the future, specifically what we're going to do over the next 30 years with our habitat conservation plan and our efforts to secure another incidental take permit on behalf of the region. And why that's important is that the genesis of why we exist was uncertainty around continuing spring flows from the Comal and San Marcos Springs, where threatened and endangered species exist and existed back then. You fast forward to today and those species have thrived in spite of drought, in spite of growth, in spite of all those challenges that the region has experienced. And as we look to the future, we're wanting to further secure their well-being for the well-being of the entire region. And so we're working in partnership with, for example, our partner permittees on the Habitat Conservation Plan, the City of San Antonio through SAWS, the City of New Braunfels, the City of San Marcos, and Texas State University. We work together to make sure that the work that we've done over the past dozen to 14 years continues to take effect for the next 30 years. And that's what we're doing right now, and that's what our board has committed itself to do as we move into the future.
Thanks, Roland. Lots happened in 30 years and lots more in the next 30 years. You know what else happened 30 years ago? The gas price was only $1.23 a gallon.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Speaking of the good old days, did you know that Dolly the sheep was cloned? She was the first mammal to be cloned back in 1996.
Well, speaking of looking like 1996, this is what I looked like 30 years ago.
And this is what I looked like.
And this is what the EAA looked like 30 years ago. To learn more about the last 30 years of the EAA, you can visit our special 30th anniversary webpage by going to edwardsaquifer.org and click on that 30th anniversary tab.
There you will see a timeline from the beginning, the inception of the agency, all the way until now. From photos and highlights, all things that you can learn about the EAA. So what happens when pressure builds deep within the aquifer? Well, that's where the third zone comes into play, the artesian zone. Water collects in the contributing zone, makes its way to the recharge zone, and goes deep into the aquifer into the artesian zone where pressure builds and comes up through artesian wells and springs, like the Comal Springs and the San Marcos Springs. Today we're going to hear from Christina Tolman, HCP Coordinator for the Threatened and Endangered Species Department, as she shares why the Comal Springs is such a vital habitat for these species. Over to you, Christina.
Hi, I'm Christina Tolman. Today we are at the Comal Springs System in New Braunfels, Texas. The Comal Springs System is home to multiple endangered species that depend on spring flow from the Edwards Aquifer. And today we're going to learn more about those species and the spring system. The Edwards Aquifer Habitat Conservation Plan is a long-term comprehensive plan that works with multiple entities to protect and manage spring flow for those endangered species and their habitat.
My name's Amy Niles. I've been working with the City of New Braunfels for about 12 years. I'm in the river and watershed role, which really balances river recreation and environmental protection, including the Habitat Conservation Plan. One of my favorite facts about this area where the Comal Springs is that there's artifacts here that show that Native Americans were traveling here to vacation and to stay for temporary times. They weren't actually like staying here for a long period of time. Tourism is such a huge part of New Braunfels, and so it's really cool to see that this is a long-term thing. People have been traveling and vacationing and visiting here for a very long time. The implementing committee has been working hard on the permit renewal that's upcoming. We've been looking back at the last 14 years to see what works and what needs to be kind of tweaked moving forward, and we're excited for planning for the future. It's really neat to come out to Landa Park and see how these habitat measures have been put into place. You can come out and see the lake, and you can see how the habitat has been restored with native plants, and you can see all the animals flourishing here.
Hi, my name is Philip Quast. I'm the watershed supervisor for the City of New Braunfels. I'm most proud of our riparian restoration efforts that have occurred over the last 14 years. Great strides have been made to remove invasive species and replace them with native species. I'm very partial to native species and wildflowers, native plant species. And so to see this work in action on the ground and see it flourish in such a habitat is very rewarding.
I'm Casey Williams. I'm an aquatic ecologist with BioWest. For the Fountain Daughter project, the success has been seeing our target species increase in abundance. So Kabamba, Ludwigia, those two species that we know provide lots of habitat, lots of good habitat for darters. We've seen those increase quite a bit compared to before 2013. So this is a big project, and so it takes a lot of partners to kind of keep it going. You have people to do the work, you have people to fund it, you have research entities, you have stakeholders, and so all of those entities provide a piece to coalesce to perform a project of this magnitude.
You know, the power of partnerships is not lost on the EAA. Recently, we hosted an information session all about the Edwards Aquifer Authority for Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Leadership. Here's a recap.
And we've talked about leaving a legacy. What is our legacy going to be? And I think our legacy can be sustainability.
We use the same amount of water today out of the aquifer as we did in the mid-1950s. So think about that. The population has tripled or quadrupled even, and we use the same amount of water as we were using in 1956.
That the hard work that was done as we look to the future doesn't have to be done alone. In fact, I would say it can't be done alone. It takes partnership, it takes collaboration, it takes governments working together, and it takes government with private sector working together if we're going to affect the type of change that we think needs to happen.
We thank you guys so much for joining us today.
With Texas native plants comes deep roots, and with deep roots, you need healthy soil. So we're going to take it to the Field Research Park, where we're going to learn from Mark Peterson and Joel Cozart as they share different research that's happening with soil restoration and soil management.
We have a study going on right now that it's looking at soil health. This is our baseline plot, but we're also comparing this to our Berman soil land management practice. Pierce and I have a study going on concurrently where I'm looking at dynamic soil properties of the soil health, like the physical, biological, and chemical properties, and Pierce is looking at the microbial communities.
That's really important. We discuss a lot of times the mineral content, but we don't often discuss the microfloral and the microfauna.
No, and the biology is really driven by the physical and the chemical properties of the soil.
So when we do the soil probes, you're taking this as your baseline and then comparing it to some of the treatment activities, which we're going to look at in a little bit.
That's right.
So that's wonderful. So shall we do it right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's go ahead and do it.
To watch the full demonstration, be sure to head over to our EAA YouTube channel. Just look for Go Gardening Season 5, Episode 4.
So here we are, 30 years. And to follow our journey in the next 30 years, you can subscribe to any of our communication tools.
From our News Drop magazine to our Recharge Zone podcast, and follow us on social.
And while you're there on social, you can learn all about our upcoming free plant giveaway. You gotta follow us on social to learn all the details. For Aquifer In-Sight, I'm Nikki Young.
And I'm Ann-Margaret Gonzalez.
Here's to 30 years.
And here's to 30 more.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Aquifer In-Sight. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please follow us on social media, including our YouTube channel.